My name is Antony, and if you're listening to this, you're about to hear the story of how my family stabbed me in the back, how they used me as their personal bank until they didn't need me anymore, and how I fought to reclaim my dignity when they tried to erase me from their lives. This isn't a tale of forgiveness or redemption. It's a story of betrayal so raw it still burns, of a fortune so massive it turned love into greed, and of a legal war that exposed the ugliness beneath my family's polished facade. I'm telling this because I want the truth to be heard, because I'm done being their doormat, and because I need the world to know. Blood doesn't always mean loyalty, and the people you trust most can wield the cruelest knives. It all began on a bitter October night in 2024. I was at my parents' estate, a $20 million mansion nestled in the rolling hills of Westchester, New York. Picture it: 12 bedrooms, a private theater, a wine cellar stocked with bottles worth more than most people's cars, and a garage housing a fleet of vintage Porsches and Lamborghinis. This wasn't just a house. It was a monument to excess, and I was the one keeping it standing. For years, my salary as a senior partner at a Manhattan hedge fund had bankrolled their lifestyle. I paid the $30,000 monthly mortgage, covered the property taxes, hired the landscapers to manicure the sprawling lawns, and even funded the custom renovations they demanded: a heated infinity pool one year, a marble-clad guest wing the next. I didn't complain. I was the eldest son, the responsible one, the one who made sure their world sparkled while I burned through 80-hour work weeks to afford it. My younger brother, Ethan, was the opposite. At 28, he was a parasite, a spoiled prince who'd never worked a day in his life. He spent his time lounging on the estate's rooftop terrace, sipping $500 a bottle champagne, or jetting off to Miami or Dubai on whims, all on my parents' dime. They called him their creative soul, their adventurer, as if his laziness was some noble pursuit. They paid for his fleet of sports cars, bailed him out when he lost $50,000 at a blackjack table in Monaco, and showered him with praise for doing nothing but existing. Me? I was the mule, the one they leaned on but never acknowledged, the one who kept their empire afloat while Ethan played king. That night, I was in my father's mahogany-paneled study, sorting through a mountain of financial documents he'd dumped on me. My parents were hopeless with paperwork. Always had been. They treated me like their personal accountant, and I went along with it, thinking it was my duty as their son. I was bleary-eyed, nursing a coffee, flipping through bank statements and investment portfolios, when I noticed a sleek black folder tucked among the chaos. The label read, "Last Will and Testament." My heart gave a little jolt. I wasn't one to snoop, but after pouring millions into their lives, I figured I had a right to know how they planned to divvy up their fortune. I opened the folder, expecting to see my name alongside Ethan's, maybe a fair split of the estate, the stocks, the offshore accounts. What I found instead stopped my breath. Every word on those pages was a dagger. The entire estate, the mansion, the $30 million investment portfolio, the private jet, the art collection with Picassos and Warhols, every last cent was left to Ethan. My name appeared nowhere. Not a single asset, not a token gesture, not even a footnote. There was only a hollow line at the end: "We love both our sons equally." Equally? The word tasted like bile. I sat there, hands trembling, the folder shaking in my grip, as the truth sank in. I'd been their financial backbone for a decade, sacrificing my savings, my time, my sanity, and they'd written me out like I was nothing. Ethan, the leech who'd never lifted a finger, was their chosen heir, while I, the son who'd kept them in luxury, was discarded. I don't know how long I stared at those pages, the words blurring as rage and hurt churned inside me. Had they always planned this? Was I just a tool to them? A means to an end, a wallet to prop up their lives until Ethan could inherit it all? Did they ever care about the nights I stayed up balancing their accounts, The vacations I skipped to cover their bills, the dreams I shelved to keep them comfortable. The betrayal was a physical weight, crushing my chest, making it hard to breathe. My father's voice snapped me out of it. "Antony, you done with those papers yet?" he called, striding into the study, his tone impatient, like I was some hired help dawdling on the job. I didn't try to hide the folder. I held it up, my voice steady but laced with ice. "So this is it, huh? Everything to Ethan. After all I've done for you." His face went ashen for a split second, but then he recovered, folding his arms like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "You weren't supposed to see that," he said, as if that was the issue, not the fact that they'd gutted me. I stood, my chair scraping the hardwood floor. "Explain it," I demanded. "Explain why the son who's paid your mortgage, your taxes, your whole damn lifestyle gets nothing, while Ethan, who's never done a thing but leech off you, gets it all." He shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my eyes. "It's complicated, Antony. You've got your career, your money. Ethan, he needs us. He's not like you. Not like me." The words were a slap. Not like me. The son who'd built a life from nothing, who'd clawed his way to the top of a cutthroat industry, who'd given them everything. Ethan, the needy one, was their priority because he was too weak to survive without their handouts. I called for my mother, needing to hear it from her, needing to know if she was part of this knife in my back. She hurried in, her face tightening when she saw the will in my hands. "Antony, honey," she started, her voice syrupy, like she could soothe me into submission. "You don't need an inheritance. You're successful, independent. Ethan struggles. We just want to make sure he's okay." Okay? Ethan wasn't struggling. He was thriving, living like a rock star on their indulgence. I was the one struggling to keep their world from collapsing while they planned to reward his laziness with a fortune. Something inside me snapped. "So that's it?" I said, my voice low, dangerous. "I'm your ATM, your fixer, but when it comes to what's yours, I'm nothing? You think I'll just keep paying your bills, knowing you've cut me out?" My mother's eyes welled with tears, but they felt rehearsed, like she'd practiced this guilt trip. "We thought you'd understand," she whispered. Understand? I understood perfectly. I was their servant, not their son, and they'd made their choice. I set the will down, my hands steady now, my decision made. "You've made it clear where I stand," I said. "I'm done." I walked out, ignoring my mother's pleas, my father's muttered curses, the heavy silence of their betrayal trailing me like a shadow. I slammed the door behind me, the sound echoing in the crisp night air, and drove away from that mansion, vowing never to set foot in it again. For the first time in years, I let them fend for themselves. No more mortgage payments, no more grocery deliveries, no more bailing them out of their self-inflicted messes. If they wanted Ethan to be their golden boy, he could step up and play the part. The silence lasted a week, maybe two, before they realized I wasn't bluffing. I thought they'd leave me alone, let the consequences of their choices sink in, but I underestimated their audacity. It started with a text from my father, cold and transactional. "Property taxes are due, $15,000. Send it." No greeting, no apology, just a demand, as if I were still their personal bank. I stared at the message, almost laughing at their nerve. They really thought I'd cave, that I'd keep funding their lives after they'd written me out. I typed back, "Ask Ethan. He's your heir." 5 minutes later, my mother called, her voice trembling with fake urgency. "Antony, please, we need to talk. The bills are piling up." I let it go to voicemail. Another text followed. "Don't do this to us, we're your parents." I replied, "You made your choice. Live with it." Then Ethan chimed in, because of course he did. His text was pure entitlement, dripping with the arrogance of someone who'd never had to earn a thing. "Dude, stop being a drama queen. Just send the money. It's not a big deal." Not a big deal? He was talking about the millions I'd poured into their lives, the years I'd sacrificed while he partied and preened. I shot back, "You're inheriting everything. Pay it yourself." His response was predictable. I don't have that kind of cash right now. Of course he didn't. He never did. But he was happy to let me bleed dry while he waited for his payday. The pressure escalated. My mother sent a Venmo request for $25,000, no explanation, just the raw audacity of it. I declined it instantly. She called again, her voice shrill now. Antony, we're going to lose the house. Do you want us homeless? I laughed, a bitter sound that surprised even me. Maybe you should have thought of that before you decided I was disposable. My father texted next, his words cutting deeper. You're selfish, Antony. After all we've done for you, you'd let us suffer? Selfish. The word was a blade twisting in my gut. I'd given them everything, money, time, loyalty, and they had the gall to call me selfish for finally saying no. I blocked their numbers, thinking that would end it, but I was wrong. The next morning, I got a call from my apartment's concierge in Manhattan. Mr. Whitmore, your parents are here. They say it's an emergency. My stomach dropped. They'd driven 2 hours to ambush me at my home, thinking they could bully me into submission. I told the concierge not to let them up, but they refused to leave, camping out in the lobby like protesters. My mother texted, "We're not going anywhere until you talk to us." I ignored it, but the messages kept coming, each one more desperate, more manipulative. Antony, we raised you, we loved you, how can you abandon us? I couldn't take it anymore. I stormed downstairs, my blood boiling, ready to confront them. There they were, my parents and Ethan, standing in the lobby like a tribunal, their faces a mix of indignation and entitlement. My mother had her arms crossed, her eyes red but calculating. My father stood rigid, his jaw set, as if he could intimidate me like he did when I was a kid. Ethan, the spoiled prince, looked bored, scrolling on his phone like this was just another inconvenience in his charmed life. "Get out," I said, my voice low, controlled, but laced with fury. My mother gasped, clutching her chest like I'd struck her. "Antony, how dare you speak to us like that?" she cried. "We're your family." I stepped closer, my eyes locked on hers. "Family? You stopped being my family when you left me nothing and gave Ethan everything. I've paid for your lives for years, and you think you can show up here demanding more?" My father scoffed. "You're blowing this out of proportion. It's just a will. You don't need the money. Just a will." As if it wasn't a declaration that I meant nothing to them. Ethan finally looked up from his phone, smirking. "Chill, man. I didn't ask for this. You're making it a big deal." I turned on him, my voice rising. "You didn't ask? You've been mooching off them your whole life, Ethan. You're 28. Get a job. Pay their bills if you're so special." His face flushed, but he had no comeback, just a petulant glare. My mother tried her guilt trip again. "He's your brother, Antony. Family takes care of each other." I laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "Exactly. So why didn't you take care of me?" The argument went nowhere. They threw every manipulation in the book, tears, accusations, pleas, but I stood my ground. "You made your choice," I said. "I'm done." I turned and walked back to the elevator, their voices echoing behind me, but I didn't look back. I thought that was the end, that they'd slink away, forced to face the consequences. I was wrong. The next day, I woke to a notification from Facebook. My parents, who'd barely mastered email, had taken to social media to paint me as the villain. My mother's post was a masterpiece of crocodile tears. I never thought my own son would turn his back on us. We gave him everything, and now he's abandoned us in our time of need. Family should mean more than money. My father's was blunter. "Some people forget where they came from. My son, who we raised and loved, has chosen greed over loyalty. Shame on you, Antony." He tagged me, ensuring everyone saw it. Ethan's post was the worst, dripping with sanctimonious lies. Real family sacrifices for each other. Some people are too selfish to understand that. I'd do anything for my parents, unlike certain people who only care about themselves. The comments were a gut punch. Friends of my parents, distant relatives, even people I barely knew chimed in, calling me heartless, ungrateful, a disgrace. I sat there, staring at my phone, the weight of their betrayal sinking deeper. They'd turned the narrative upside down, made me the monster for refusing to be their slave. I wanted to scream, to tell the world the truth, but I held back, knowing a rash response would only fuel their fire. Instead, I called my lawyer, Vanessa Reed, one of the sharpest minds in New York's legal scene. I'd known her for years, trusted her implicitly, and I needed her now more than ever. I told her everything: the will, the years of financial support, the social media smear campaign. Can they do this? I asked, my voice shaking. Can they just cut me out and expect me to keep paying their way? Vanessa's voice was calm but firm. Antony, you've got a case. You've been supporting them under an implied promise of inheritance. We can argue undue influence, maybe even fraud, given how they've manipulated you. And the social media posts? That's defamation. Let's hit them where it hurts. We moved fast. Vanessa filed a lawsuit against my parents seeking to contest the will and recover the millions I'd contributed to their estate. We argued that I'd been coerced into supporting them under the false belief that I'd be fairly compensated, that their exclusion of me was a breach of an implicit contract. We also filed a defamation suit, citing their public attacks as malicious attempts to ruin my reputation. The legal papers were served to my parents within days, and I could only imagine their shock when they realized I wasn't backing down. The fallout was immediate. My mother called, sobbing, leaving voicemails that veered between begging and rage. Antony, how could you sue us? We're your parents. You're tearing this family apart. My father's messages were colder, threatening. You'll regret this, Antony. You think you can take us to court? We'll bury you. Ethan, true to form, texted me a string of insults. You're a greedy bastard. You're just mad you're not getting the money. Grow up. I didn't respond. I let Vanessa handle it, focusing on my work, my sanity, anything to keep the pain at bay. The legal battle was brutal. My parents hired a high-powered attorney, some slick shark who painted me as a vengeful son trying to extort his own family. They countersued, claiming I'd abused them by cutting off financial support, demanding I pay them $5 million in damages for their emotional distress. The audacity was staggering, but Vanessa was unfazed. She dug into their finances, uncovering records of every payment I'd made. Mortgage transfers, tax receipts, even credit card bills I'd covered for their vacations to the Maldives and Paris. The evidence was overwhelming, a paper trail of my loyalty and their greed. The defamation suit gained traction when Vanessa subpoenaed their social media accounts, revealing private messages where they'd coordinated their posts to teach Antony a lesson. My mother had written to a cousin, "He'll come crawling back once everyone hates him." Ethan had bragged to a friend, "Antony's just jealous. He'll pay up when he sees we don't need him." The messages were damning, proof of their malice, and the judge wasn't impressed. The courtroom was a battlefield. I sat there, staring at my parents across the room, their faces a mix of defiance and fear. Ethan slouched beside them, avoiding my gaze, his usual swagger gone. Vanessa was relentless, presenting our case with surgical precision. She called me to the stand, and I told the truth, how I'd supported them for years, how I'd believed we were a team, how the will had shattered that illusion. My voice broke when I described finding the will, the moment I realized I was nothing to them. The jury listened, their faces unreadable, but I saw a few nod slightly, as if they understood. My parents' lawyer tried to tear me apart, accusing me of greed, of fabricating my contributions. "Isn't it true, Mr. Whitmore, that you're only suing because you want the money?" he sneered. I leaned into the microphone, my voice steady. "No. I'm suing because they used me, lied to me, and then tried to destroy me when I said enough." The room was silent, the weight of my words hanging in the air. The trial dragged on for months, each day a fresh wound. The media caught wind of it, splashing headlines across tabloids: "Millionaire son sues parents over $15 fortune," Family feud tears apart NY elite. My reputation took a hit, but I refused to hide. I posted my side of the story on LinkedIn, a measured account of the truth, and to my surprise, it went viral. Colleagues, clients, even strangers reached out, sharing their own stories of family betrayal, offering support. It was a small comfort, a reminder that I wasn't alone. The verdict came in April 2025, just days after my 35th birthday. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with tension. The judge read the ruling. The will was deemed invalid due to undue influence and lack of testamentary capacity, given my parents' reliance on my support. The estate was to be split equally between Ethan and me, with my contributions, over $8 million, reimbursed from my parents' liquid assets. The defamation suit was a partial victory. They were ordered to pay $500,000 in damages and issue a public apology. My parents' countersuit was dismissed, their claims deemed frivolous. I should have felt triumphant, but all I felt was emptiness. My parents sat stone-faced, my mother dabbing her eyes, my father glaring at me like I'd committed a crime. Ethan stormed out, muttering curses. The apology came a week later, a stiff, insincere post on their Facebook pages. We regret any distress caused by our statements about our son Antony. It meant nothing. The damage was done. I sold my share of the estate, unwilling to set foot in that house again. The money, millions more than I'd ever imagined, sat in my account, but it felt tainted, a reminder of what I'd lost. My parents and Ethan cut contact, moving to a smaller property in Florida, living off what was left of their wealth. I heard through a cousin that Ethan still hadn't gotten a job, that he was burning through his inheritance on parties and bad investments. I didn't care. They were ghosts to me now. The legal victory gave me closure, but it didn't heal the wounds. I walk through life differently now, wary of trust, guarded against those who claim to love me. I've built a new circle, friends, colleagues, people who value me for who I am, not what I can give. I'm moving forward, but the scars remain, a reminder that family isn't always what it seems. So here I am, telling my story, not for sympathy, but for truth. If you're listening, know this. Stand up for yourself, even when it hurts, even when it's family. Because sometimes the people who should love you most are the ones who will break you hardest. And sometimes the only way to survive is to walk away and never look back.